Hi, Professor Gronlin here. As you probably already know, humans have 11 organ systems. Although the systems all work together to carry out life processes, each system does have a specific role to play. For the digestive system, the major role is to get nutrients into the body for the cells to use. The GI tract is one long tube. I mean really long tube, about 15 feet in a living person, but if you remove it after death with no muscle tone, it's actually about 30 feet long. The GI tract is also called the alimentary canal. It's the actual tube that food passes through. The tube itself starts in the mouth. When food is swallowed, it moves into the pharynx, then into the esophagus, next is the stomach, then the small intestine, and finally the large intestine with the rectum and the anus. Associated with the GI tract are accessory organs. Food does not go through the accessory organs. Rather, these structures make fluids that are sent into the GI tract to help process the food. The accessory organs are the salivary glands, liver, gallbladder, and pancreas. So those are the structures. As we work through their function, we're going to talk about 5 different processes. Ingestion is pretty obvious. Motility, also called propulsion, means moving substances through the tubes, and it'll take different forms in different organs. Digestion, here we need to look at both mechanical digestion, that means physically breaking large chunks into smaller chunks, and chemical digestion, meaning that we're using enzymes to break the chemical bonds between molecules. A 4th process is absorption, moving nutrients from inside the GI tract to inside the body, and then egestion, also called defecation or elimination. If we start in the mouth, obviously ingestion occurs here, but mechanical digestion in the form of mastication, that's chewing, and chemical digestion of starch also happens here. For the chemical digestion, saliva, produced by 3 sets of salivary glands, contains amylase, an enzyme that breaks the bonds between glucose molecules in starch. Between chewing and the tongue mixing the food with the saliva, a soft mass called a bolus is formed. Deglutition, that's the fancy term for swallowing, moves the bolus of food into the pharynx, and from there it enters the esophagus. These are just tubes. They connect the mouth to the stomach. The only process here is motility in the form of peristalsis. Peristalsis involves waves of contractions of the smooth muscle in the walls of the GI tract organs. Once food reaches the stomach, the digestive processes really pick up. The stomach walls have 3 layers of smooth muscle. Most of the rest of the system only has 2. This extra layer allows churning, which moves the food through the stomach so vigorously that it causes mechanical digestion. Additionally, chemical digestion of protein begins here. First, hydrochloric acid denatures the proteins, and then the enzyme pepsin starts breaking the bonds between the amino acids. Both hydrochloric acid and pepsin are made by specialized cells in the stomach. Some absorption does also occur in the stomach, for example, alcohol, some of your minerals, and some drugs, like aspirin. Now, depending on how much you ate and what you ate, movement through the stomach can take anywhere from 2 to 4 hours. At the end, chyme has been formed. This is a semi-fluid pulp-like mass of very acidic, partially digested food, and this will now move into the small intestine. The small intestine is an incredibly busy place. The liver makes bile, and the gallbladder stores the bile until chyme enters the small intestine. Then it is excreted through the bile duct and into the small intestine. That bile is needed to emulsify fats. In other words, make big globs of hydrophobic fats into smaller globs of hydrophobic fats so that the enzymes can get to work at the bonds. The pancreas makes a huge variety of digestive enzymes. These pancreatic juices are also secreted into the small intestine where they're going to be used for chemical digestion. On top of that, the intestinal cells themselves make digestive enzymes. So all these enzymes plus bile allow the chemical digestion to be completed. If that's not enough, when food is in the intestine, the motility increases to be segmentation. This is a much more vigorous mechanical digestion movement to promote the mixing. So the food that you have ingested will have been in the form of large polymers, such as protein that can be hundreds of amino acids long, or starch that can be hundreds of glucose molecules. These large molecules that were ingested could never be absorbed in that initial form. It took mechanical and chemical digestion to separate these molecules into their small component parts called monomers. Now, these small component parts are what's absorbed into the small intestine. Typically, water-soluble nutrients are absorbed into the blood capillaries for circulation to the body cells, while the fat-soluble nutrients are absorbed into the lymphatic capillaries for circulation. The last organ in the GI tract is the large intestine. Sometimes people refer to the large intestine as the colon. Technically, the colon is just a portion of the large intestine. Although most of the digestive system work has already been completed during that 2 to 6 hours that food spends in the small intestine, there's still a few things left to do. Primarily, what reaches the large intestine are undigestible items like soluble and insoluble fiber. Note that the large intestine, and to a lesser extent the last portion of the small intestine, which is called the ileum, are home to billions of microorganisms. These are called your gut microbiome. These microbes live on the soluble fiber, and in return they make vitamin K and some of the B vitamins, which will be absorbed along with water as peristalsis moves the waste through the organ. But that's not all those gut microbes are doing. Recent research has uncovered a gut-brain axis system of communication that integrates neural, hormonal, and immunological signaling between the gut microbiome and the brain. Imbalances of the normal gut microbiota have been linked with gastrointestinal conditions such as IBD and IBS, and wider systemic problems such as obesity and type 2 diabetes, as well as mental health conditions such as anxiety and depression. So keep those microbes happy by eating probiotic foods, that is, foods with live bacteria in them, as well as prebiotic foods, that's foods with the fiber that those microbes live on. After the food is completely processed, the waste is temporarily stored in the rectum until the appropriate neural signals initiate egestion. Well, that wraps up a brief look at the digestive system structures and functions. I hope you eat well to live healthy.